Yo,
Brother, how's it going?
what's good, my bro?
God, it's been a long time.
I know. How you been?
I've been good. Like, I can't complain. Life's been really, really good. Like, it's kind of surreal to be talking to you here a little bit, but I envisioned this a couple years ago. I told myself I'm gonna talk to Somesh one day, and here we are, man.
Here we go, bro. I'm so fucking pumped up. I'm so pumped up. All right, before we even start, tell me about one quick little thing, bro. Give me a quick rundown. What's been happening in life? I see you quit your job. Now you work full time, trade full time, and your goal is to get everybody in your family retired and making sure everybody's looked after. You going on the fucking right path. From what we have talked about, you went from like what, $2,000 account to six figures, and you have about $110,000 in profit. Now we have to give it a time frame. How long did it took you to go from 2,000 to 110?
So it took me about a year.
1 year.
Yep, 1 year from when I finally started really turning the corner. I think I was part of your original mastermind group back in 2022, October. And then, started seeing some progress, but still very inconsistent, a lot of ups and downs. And I think in March, I was still pretty negative. And then I remember this pretty clearly though. In August of 2023, I sent you a message. I sent you a message on Discord. I had just had my second kid. Like we have three now, but at that time I had my second kid, and my work was really meaningful but very demanding, and I was just like everything's getting really heavy, and it just getting to the point where it felt like too much. So I
Right.
sent you a message, and I said, I said I was gonna take time off, but really what I meant was I was gonna quit, right? And I think you knew that because
I
you
knew
messaged
right
me
away.
back,
What did I
right?
message you back? I sent you a voice message back, remember?
You sent me a voice message. I still see it. August 15th, or no, August 24th. You sent me a long voice message, and you were like, "If I let you off, I let you down, and I don't let nobody down." I remember that clearly. And it's crazy because I had canceled all my data subscriptions. I took the money out of my broker. I did. Like, I was like, I was done,
So
right?
you actually quit.
Yes,
And
and
I remember, you know where I was at that time? I was in the grocery pushing the car while my missus is doing the shopping. I remember we were shopping something, and I was like, "Babe, do you need this?" And she's like, "No." I kind of, I kind of got annoyed at her for a little bit, and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna go on my phone." And that I sent you a big ass, long ass voice message because I had the time. I was like, "Fuck, nah." Straight away, I read your message. It kind of pushed me back to the time when I was about to quit trading.
yeah,
And I did quit trading for a little bit, and I replied in a way that I'm like, how the fuck do I let him not quit? How do I
right.
actually say the words? Now, let's get back to the story, bro.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing you said was, it doesn't get any easier. We just get better, right?
Right.
I was like, you know what? You're right. Just work harder, right? Everyone has their own story. Everyone has things to overcome and challenges to face. And what really got me though was thinking about my bigger picture goals, right? Like what I really want out of life, and I knew trading was
Uh-huh.
the way. And
Right.
at the time, KCU wasn't there yet. I think KCU started in September. A couple weeks later, you hit me up again about KCU, and I was like, let's do it. And from then on, dude, a whole year straight, things just started going up, 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 up.
I remember messaging you about KCO. I was like, bro, I'm launching something. I'm gonna change the fucking game for
Yep.
everybody. Original masterminds that I was working on, bro. The whole goal for the masterminds was to eventually launch KCU. And there was a reason why I wanted to I wanted to name it University KCU because back when I was growing up, I was a kid, we always got told to follow one person in our family who went to big universities and got gold medals from the universities and stuff. We always were told you have to be like her. You have to be like her. And in my brain, I was like, no, I don't want to be like her. And one of the reasons was I found out how much money she makes when I was still in India, and we were getting, she made like 60, $70,000 at the time. And I'm like, that's good money, especially in India. That's good money, but I want more. In 1 year, that's not enough. So when I started making money, and the family was still like, oh, so do you still go to school? This is like me, I was still on a student visa. So I had to still go to school. Do you still go to school and stuff? I'm like, I do. And like, what do you study? And because of my visa maintenance, I had to study the cookery, commercial cookery, to be a chef. I remember one of the somebody went like, huh, like this, like, are you gonna be a chef? But I was making money in trading at that stage. Anyway, fast forward, that was the day I made my mind. I'm like, you know what? I didn't go to universities, big universities. I didn't actually got the gold medals. But I'm rich as fuck. I'm gonna start my own university. Fuck this. And
Oh,
that's where the seed started. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make something which changes people's games. I'm gonna start my own university. And that's I never told people this story. And that's why the name KCU. Now you tell me, bro. The day I sent you a message, you were not profitable at that time in September when I sent you a message.
no, not yet.
Okay, so what actually went in your brain where you're like, man, I've invested money in myself already. That didn't work the way I thought it would work, which normal person would be like, oh man, it's been 11 months. I thought this will make me fucking rich. But were you like, because people get into blame game. They're like, oh, it's his fault. Were you like looking at yourself more and then trying to put a game, like you knew what your mistakes were?
Yep. Yeah, yeah. They say trading is a lot like a personal development course, right? Once
Right,
you realize it, anyways. And I knew that the work that had to be done was on myself, right?
right,
Even through the mastermind, we had very successful strategies. Like we you told us, make a playbook, hundreds of examples for each strategy right, back in the day, and they worked, right? But the person that execute it is the one that needs to do the work, right?
right,
Just the way the KCU at the time, day trading lords, right? Like I knew there was still a lot more things going on. I knew you were brewing something. Like we're just getting started. And
right,
when KCU happened, I was like, dude, this is it. Let's do this, right? I know that I didn't know what it was gonna be. I didn't know what LTP, I didn't know, patience bars and that was gonna come out of it. But I was like, man, this is it. I'm gonna stick with Somesh and we're gonna do this. Like, I think a lot of students, a lot of people go into trading and then they hop from one strategy to the next, one mentor to the next, one whatever Discord group to the next. And I was like, I'm just gonna stick with him. He's the one that reached out to me. He supported me. He was in my corner when I really needed it. And so let's do this. And I
So
think that
this is
gave birth
history,
to
yeah.
everything else.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm so fucking pumped up now. All right,
Yeah.
so this is September. You joined. You started the fucking stuff that in the KCU. And the what's the one thing that you learned in there where you went like, oh my god, this makes so much fucking sense now. What was the
Yeah.
one thing where things went like, oh shit?
Having a real system, having a framework, right? Something that is honestly so step by step. And all you need to do is repeat it, right? All you need to do is just follow the steps, right? We have levels. Well, I don't know how much you want me to say,
Nah, say
but
whatever, man. Don't matter.
we have to know the areas on the chart, right? We have to identify the trend, and then we look for that setup, right? It's that easy, but we make it that much harder. When you taught us the LTP framework, I was like, it can really be this easy. You have to believe that, by the way, because I think when you fail a lot of times your mindset is like, man, this is hard. Trading is hard. Making money is hard. And I really believed that for a long time. And I had to change that belief, right? Just even growing up, money was hard to come by. My parents struggled. Everybody struggled with money. And I just didn't believe, I didn't trust that things could work out well. And I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of traders, including myself. Like, I was like, man, this is so hard. You know what? Why don't we flip that on upside down and say, you know what? This is easy. How can you let it be easy? Because it should be easy.
And it is fucking
What
easy,
we
bro.
do, it's funny because, I see you say that on Instagram, like the stories and stuff, but it's like most people don't vibe with that because they just don't get it, right? They keep injecting themselves into the process, and that's what makes it hard. But if you
Right.
just trust the process, trust the system, trust the framework, bro, it
It
can be
works.
that easy,
The
but it's a
system works.
belief that you have to have first, right? And
Right.
I think that really, even when I first learned it, I still had to go through that struggle of trusting and like, believing and just doing it by the book, right? By how you taught us. Because there were still times when I strayed, right? But over time, you realize, dude, stop fucking around, stop doing stupid shit. Like, just do what you're supposed to do.
That's it.
And that really turned the corner for me.
I know, right? Because here's the thing, man. Because, as you said, because the beliefs that we put on our trading, oh, it can't be that easy. You start looking at things with your guard up, and when you're playing not to lose, you can't win
Exactly.
because you're going into the market thinking, I can't lose money. And when you can't, and that because of that, you start playing not to lose. I don't want to
Mhm.
lose. When you're playing not to lose, what happens? You
Lose.
can't win. You do not win. When you do not win, what happens? You get desperate for the win. And when you get desperate for the win, the market knows there's people like me out there. And we see fucking somebody, because here's the thing, bro. This is the sort of people who know how to trade. This is the sort of people who do not know how to trade. We're in competition all the time. This side makes a mistake, people who do not know how to trade, we're gonna take your fucking money. Period. Because I believe in my system. I believe in myself. I believe if today is not a good day, I'm not gonna risk my whole life, whole account to try to prove today. I'll come back tomorrow, I'll smack you around. That's the mindset that I go into the market. I don't think I'm trading the candles, I'm trading the people on the other side. So now tell me one thing. Joined in September, you said it took you a year. So that means for first 6 months, what happened when you were in KCU? Now you have a system. What was the biggest struggle that you thought, oh man, I need to fix this, and how did you fix it?
Yeah, exactly what I said was I learned the system. I learned to identify, the patient's bar, right? Identify the trend, but I was over eager. Like one of the things that, like I think personality wise for myself, whenever I'm into something, I get really into it, right? Like I'm either 0 or 100. I had to learn that about myself. And so it became like, oh, let me just look for patient's bar all over the charts, right? But not every single bar is equal. And so really slowing down and telling myself the story. What am I seeing, right? Even when we mark those lines, it's not like that's the line, right? Who cares about my line? Who cares about Somesh's line? It's gonna be a zone, like you always say, right? But what is the meaning behind that line? Dollars are here or bars are here. Like we have to understand what's actually going on in the chart.
Right.
Um, and so I couldn't just take all these setups. I have to make sure it's the right ones, right? And I love what you say nowadays. I love your saying of, when the market is easy, go hard, right? When the market's hard, go easy. I still struggle to figure out at that time. It was a struggle to figure out which environments or which markets were easy and which ones were hard. I was just trying to take every single setup, and so that
Right.
obviously didn't help me with profitability. Like I
Right.
would win some, I would lose some, and it was kind of back and forth still. But obviously, as we got deeper and deeper into KCU and we went through all those psychological modules as well and just continuing to do the work, back testing, I became like, obsessed with back testing. I always thought I was like a hard worker and I was disciplined. No, it wasn't until I really dug deep in KCU that I became,
The
the,
beast.
the hard worker that I am now,
Right.
right? And at the time too, I was juggling three different jobs. I had two kids, but I didn't make any more excuses. The moment you told me not to quit, I made no more excuses. I was just
Right.
gonna do it. Right.
Look at you now, bro. Look at you now.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm really really interested in this. I'm really getting excited. I know you have to go pick up your kids soon. I'm gonna take the best out of this time. So you said you went from $2,000
Mhm.
to over 100 grand. How much money did you lose before you joined KCU?
Man, yeah. My wife's gonna watch this. She'll find out, right? No, I already told her. I was down
That's
quite a bit.
before, let's say before KCU, what's the money you lost? And then how long did you stay kind of break even? Because people think they're going to go from losing money to making money right away. No, you go from losing money to losing less money to breaking even to making a little bit of money, then making decent money, then making fuckloads of money. So you
Yeah.
tell me what happened before KCU.
Yeah, so I started, 2019, 2020, like I think most people did. And I quickly found myself in a big hole. I was down 10, 20 grand even before, the first year ended. And then, but I found ways to make some of it. I was starting to follow other people and, find some sort of ability to make money, but I couldn't keep anything. That was the issue. And so I think before I started with KCU, I was probably down 30 or 40 at that time.
Right.
And then, so what happened was, I think, from one second, real quick,
Hey, no problem.
my little guy just came in. Hey,
No
buddy, I'll
problem.
be right back. Okay? Yes.
Hey, do you enjoy being home and actually being around the kids more,
Yeah,
bro?
man, I love it, dude. Come on, but I'll be right there with you. Okay?
Hey, he's a full-time dad now, you see. This is what I love. Family. Family's everything. So if you're watching this recording right now and you miss seeing your kids growing up, bro, let me change your fucking game. So
Yeah.
now back to the point, bro. So you
Yeah.
lost 30, 40 grand. You made a little
hmm
bit of a back.
Yep.
You joined KCU.
So
It
from
started
KCU,
clicking.
hmm
What happened? How long did you stay break even?
I stayed break even. I broke even probably all the way up to, I would say, about the tail end of the first 6 months of KCU. Because it was just an up and down thing. Again, I was like taking so many different setups that it was hard, right?
Right.
To be profitable. But by the time May of last year, that's when everything turned, right? And you, like you said, we go from losing a lot to losing a little bit to break even, and then to making a little bit. And so from May to August of last year, I was making a little bit. I think we did message each other around that time
Right.
and I was up about 20 or so. So from May to August, I made an extra a
Fuck.
lot more. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. We're gonna get into it. We're
Another
gonna get
80.
into it in a minute. All right. So now you said so you went from May. You said you were taking too many setups, and then you started focusing on. Did you start focusing on just one or two setups? When you said one or two setups, that means we still following LTP.
Correct.
But did you start focusing on one or two stocks, or did you start focusing on the same stocks, but you started being more picky, like only 2 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute? Which chart started clicking?
Yeah, so I like that question. There's a lot of tweaks that I actually made for myself. One of
Right,
the things that I made sure of was I only played outside of weekly ranges. So I would only play, still same system, but I don't want to take anything within the previous week's range. Just
okay,
because that's it's kind of like an extension of the no trading zone, for the daily
right,
inside candle, right? Or
yes,
even like O or B, kind of a similar story there. So I would only want to play outside of the weekly range. The other thing was I found myself less consistent with the 2 minute setup.
right,
So in the beginning, I took a lot of 2 minute setups, right?
right,
And you look at TradeZella, you see, oh man, like the first 20, 30 minutes is where I lose the most money. You got to stop
right,
doing that then, right?
right.
I started just focusing only on the 5 minute chart. And then when it looks good on the five and we see a trend established, then I would go to the two to potentially see a setup. But if not, I would take it on the five.
Yeah, we have a module LTP on steroids
Oh yeah.
that talks about just 5 minute chart now. Like
hmm
this is what we
hmm
do. It becomes on the steroid. You become more stronger if just 5 minute
Right.
chart. So you look for
Right.
the weekly range. Prices out of the weekly range. You look at a 5 minute chart. Now, what time? Like from 9:30 to 11 o'clock, or whatever. What time is the time where you make most amount of moves?
Usually is the most amount of money I make is usually after 7:30. That's 10:30, right?
But
Eastern
after
Standard.
10:30 Eastern.
Yeah, yeah.
So after first 1 hour.
Right. So you want to see that trend really established. There's a lot more data there. And then I would go from five, and I'm actually really starting to like the 10 minute more as well.
Right.
But I go back and forth. So that's something that I think about now is like that flexibility to be able to go back and forth. In the
Yes.
beginning, it's like, okay, Somesh says, first 30 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay, the next hour, 5 minute, right?
Exactly.
But eventually, as you start to process things quicker and quicker and faster, you're able to kind of go back and forth and
Yes.
have that ability
This is
to
this is
to
literally what I
be
tell
flexible.
everybody that
Yeah.
your A plus setup's gonna be different from mine. The system, the basic rule will stay the same. The way I make my coffee and the way you make your coffee might be a little bit different, but
Yeah.
the end goal is money. As long as you get to the coffee, bro, that's all that matters. So now tell me one thing. So you went from last May, which is like a year ago now, you started with 2000. Or was it like fresh start with 2000 or how did they go?
So what I did was I went from 2 to 10 multiple times, right? And then from 10 to 25 a couple times, and then
All right,
25
right,
to
right. No, no, no. Slow down. Slow down. Too fast.
20.
You went from $2,000 account to $10,000. You did that a couple of times, or maybe more. How long did that take every time?
It was quick and quicker each time.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
so
Like for example, it took me first. You know how long it took me to make my first million?
14
It took
months.
me
Oh no, I'm sorry. You
my
said
first million. It took me from the first day of when I started trading. It took me 4 years. Second million happened in 8 months. Third million happened in 5 months. Fourth happened in 3 months. This is how I went. Like every time that it became smaller and smaller. Okay. Every time it became smaller, what was the mindset behind just putting to 2,000 to 10,000? Did you not think like, oh, let me just keep the 10,000, I'll be able to make even more money?
no, one of the things I did that really helped my mindset too was taking money out and treating it like real money, right? Like a real income. I didn't want it to be some sort of fantasy anymore. Like, yeah, I made money from my job, but no, I want to make money from trading. And you start taking it out, paying for bills, like making sure it has value and has purpose.
What would your position size be when you're trading this $2,000 account? Let's say you resetted your account today. What's your position size?
So if I'm doing a $2,000 account,
Are you following the bell curve strategy that I explained in the modules?
yeah, yeah. So, you would start off smaller and then kind of go up as you kind of get on a roll. Yeah, if I'm taking a $2,000 account, contract wise, depending on the stock, that's the other thing that I've made some tweaks with is it's dependent on what stocks you're trading. Because like if you trade SPY, how much you lose on SPY is different than how much you lose on Tesla or Meta,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
I can't take 10 contracts of SPY and 10 contracts of Tesla and
Being the
expect to be
same.
profitable, right?
Yes. Exactly.
So I kind of change up my sizing based on the name, but I make it so that the number is almost always the same in terms of my losses. So that helps me a lot.
Would you say like $500 to $600 being your trade position size?
I mean, if I had to start over now, I think I could be more aggressive. But yeah, if I went back to the beginning, I would probably go with like 3 to 5 contracts, right?
Yeah.
To
You know how
start.
hard, like for example, right now, it's tough for you to answer that question. You know why? Because as you keep moving forward with your trading, you
Mhm.
start forgetting your initial first like small steps. Like these are
Yeah.
very small things you start forgetting. And what happens is because you start becoming so much better and you're like always like, oh, this is the next thing I want to fix. This is the mistake I made. This is the thing I want to fix. Because you're always like progressing. When I ask this question, and this is for some people who gonna say, hey man, you should have asked this question in the comments. People always fucking want me to ask certain questions, right? Guys, as you keep moving forward, you are only this fucking long. As you keep moving forward, you have to let go of the previous knowledge, and the previous knowledge has to be gone. Otherwise, the new knowledge can't be acquired. And like he said, about 3 to 5 contracts, there's no actual number. He might have felt comfortable with, let's say, $400 position size. And because you take a $400 position size, that might be 20%, let's say 20% stop loss. That's $80. If you do not feel comfortable losing $80, that means your position size should be 300. Do you feel comfortable risking like $60? So it's really different. And I promise you, every single time he went from 2 to 10,000, the next time he went not 3 to 5 contracts or not 300 to 500, he went 600 to 800, because it's
Mhm.
not the amount of money you start with, it's the amount of confidence you start with. And once your bank accounts get fat, bro, you're not fucking scared to lose that 2,000. You're like, "Pfft, I have 30,000 that I pulled out last 3 months from my trading account. So it doesn't really matter." Now tell me, bro, 2,000 to 10,000 a few times. What happened then?
Then I decided, it's just a numbers game, right? And like you said, the confidence kind of increases. One thing that helped me a lot was knowing how much I was going to lose each time. Like you say all the time, you have a stop loss, there's nothing to be scared of.
Right.
And so as your confidence grows and you know how much you can expect to lose on any given trade, there's nothing to fear. Then now it's just a numbers game. And
Right.
so that allowed me then to go from 10 to 25.
Shit.
And
Okay.
yeah,
How long did
so
that take?
I think like 2 months.
Ooh, okay. What
Yeah.
are the stocks do you trade?
So, SPY and Qs, Tesla, Nvidia. Back then, it was a little bit better than it is now, and I did do Meta quite a bit back then too. So,
Right.
but those are kind of the five names I usually look at the most.
Okay. I fucking love it. I'm loving it. So talk to me about when you decided, when you took your first money out.
Mhm.
How's your family's reaction? Like you took
So
your first 10,000 out of your trading account, and now you're like telling your wife, "Hey, look at this."
yeah,
How's the
yeah,
reaction then?
I I think my wife was pretty happy for me. She just wants me to be happy doing what I do. Fortunately, she's never given me any pressure in terms of money, but I definitely think she was happy when I got her a gift. You know,
Nice.
we don't do that often for ourselves. Like we don't really spend on material things, but it felt really good to be able to do that. And I think the most important thing though was last February, I took my mom on a trip for the first time, and we
And
got to
that was funded
yeah, fully
by
funded. And
HCG
yeah,
fucking
first
profits?
time ever I was able to take my mom out, my mom and my stepdad, and then my cousin who helps me takes care of our kids, and then my wife and our kids. And it was the first time I was able to afford doing something like that. And we got into the suite, right, that we were at, and then my mom just started crying. I was like, damn,
Right.
man.
Now
Like
that, hey, you
this is
fall in love with that, bro, it's game
yeah.
over. It's game
Yeah,
over.
so that was it right there. I was like, wow, I never want to go
Made it.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where
So,
we stood there. You're like, let it sink in.
yep.
How does it feel to be able to actually see your kids grow up?
Man, I say this a lot to people, and
You had, hang on. So you had one kid already,
yep,
the second kid, and you were still working. Um,
yep.
and with your third kid now, do you feel like you missed out on the growth of the first two kids? Now, how does that in your brain goes?
Dude, yeah, it's funny because I'm so much closer to my third one because I get to see him all the time, I hold him all the time. I put him to sleep. Like, yeah, I think as a father, I think a lot of people think of a great father as someone who can provide, right? Like a really good provider. Unfortunately, a lot of times as a provider, that means you have to work. And
Right.
that means you spend a lot of hours away from your family because you got to put the food on the table, the money in the bank account. To be able to trade and be not just a provider, but be a father that's present, dude, like
It's insane, man.
priceless. Like
It's
I
insane.
can't, I can't think of a better dream that I'm living right now.
Right.
To be both a provider and someone that's present. I grew up, with my mom, but I didn't have my dad present, and all I ever wanted was to be a present father. And yeah, I mean,
And being there for the kids, bro.
yeah, exactly.
How did it feel? All right, tell me, how did it feel when you when was the thing when you thought like, you know what, I'm gonna quit my job. Fuck this.
Ooh. Yeah, it was scary. It was scary. It was a leap of faith. A lot of people or would question like, you went and got your doctorate, you have a high, six-figure job, you're really gonna throw all that away? And so, it was scary, but you think about the bigger picture goal that you have. And again, for me, it was being able to spend more time with my family. Like that was priceless to me and worth any amount of struggle and hard, whatever work I had to put in. I was ready to go all in.
Right.
And also, I kind of always felt that growing up that I was built different.
Oh fuck yeah, bro.
I'm not saying anything wrong about the 9 to 5, and I was the best employee I could be at the time, right? And I
Right.
love my job and it had a lot of meaning, but I always felt I was meant for more.
So
So.
how did like when you put your resignation in, were you like shitting your pants?
A little
How
bit. I
did
was very nervous going into my boss's office. But again, like I said, I just kept thinking about the bigger picture. And it's actually interesting because, people don't talk about this side of that transition. My goal has always been to retire my wife and my mom first. And
right.
so I was like, I'm going to keep working and trading until I can retire first. And then one day I was just talking with my wife and she's like, why don't you retire first? And
100%.
you put in the
Always
work.
should be like this.
If you fully believe in yourself in trading, then why don't you do it first? And then you work hard enough to retire me. I'm like, oh my God, you don't know how much you just motivated me.
No,
And so
100%.
that's what we did. So now, my goal now is to retire her now that
Right.
I'm on this side.
No, I freaking love it. This is one of the sides of the trading that's not actually well covered. So you
Yeah.
quit your job. This is
Yep.
day one of your new life. You're sitting at your desk. When you had a job, you had a system that some other man gave you, and you had to follow that. And you were, there's a structure and there's a way to do things. You have to be at a certain time. You have to wear certain clothes. You have to do all this. Now, what motivated you to actually be able to do all that, but for yourself now? What was the motivational factor where, because what I see with a lot of people is they quit their jobs, but they don't have the system and the discipline anymore. So they
Mhm.
be sitting in front of their computer trying to trade and they just woke up 20 minutes ago, haven't even washed their face. So what was the motivation or what was the mindset behind I have to dress up every single day? I have to actually follow my own system now. Otherwise, I'll go back to following somebody else's system. What was the mindset there, bro?
Yeah, I did a lot of work before I actually took the leap to quit. I've always been very structured and routine. So having a routine and making sure everything was structured was important to me. I wasn't gonna just now live the life and just put my feet up and sit by the pool all day, I still have to work hard on myself every single day, show up every single
Right.
day, everything from A to Z, whether it's exercise, fitness, health. I keep everything as structured as possible, and that's what allows me to do this. And I also know that, like you said, I think people would start just sitting at the screen all day long, right? And I don't want to do that. I value my time a lot. That's the reason
That's
why I
like
wanted
another
to quit
nine to
my job.
five. That's
Yeah,
another nine
exactly.
to five where you fucking
So
got
if I'm
no.
trading and there's nothing there, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go spend time with my kid. I'm gonna go do something productive. I'm gonna go read a book. I read a lot nowadays. I write a lot too, and so that kind of helps keeps me in the right frame of mind for sure. Like
Right.
I don't want to just be staring at the screen all day.
Okay. I fucking love it. I love this is so much so important because people go from being a nine to five sitting in front of the computer, then sitting in front of the computer here. It's just
Mhm.
like, bro, what did you change? Where's the
Yeah.
freedom? Where's the freedom? There's no freedom. All right, tell me
Yeah.
now this is the question that I have to ask. We're about to wrap up now, bro. I have a couple more questions. So you said you were going through a lump back in the day.
Mhm.
You said first 3, 4 months of KCU when you joined my mentorship, you were kind of still breaking even, making money, then losing the same money, then making the money, losing the same money. In that time period, did you think of like, man, maybe this is not for me. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I can't actually do this. Maybe life will be so much easier if I just go back to job and just, I'll have weekend off. What kept you going in that dealing with the slump?
First of all, seeing you do the work, seeing you show up every single day, I kind of think of it like if you're Michael Jordan, I'm Kobe Bryant, right? Like that's how I wanted to be. But I think what really helped me a lot was also working on, handling losing. I think that was a big issue back in the day, you know, fear of losing, fear of failure, and giving it so much weight. That's what kind of kept me back most of the time, right? Redefining and reframing what losing is. You know, in trading, I don't think you can consider losing, people treat losing like it's life and death, right?
Right.
Well, this is a game of probability, right? And so, first of all, you can't make money without putting on risk. And
Right.
so, when I finally accepted losing as part of the process, winning became easy. You know, a lot of people just focus on the winning part. I think you need to make sure you're a professional loser, right? I think
Right.
that's been thrown around a lot lately, and I think that helped me a lot too. And you know, just seeing how you carry yourself. It's not like we don't have red days, but like I think you say you give yourself like 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever, and you move on. Let's go, right?
That's it.
And that also kind of ties back into how much you trust the system.
That's
I
it.
can't lose and then blame LTP. No, I'm the one that clicking the button,
Right.
right? And trusting that if you do it the right way over time, you're going to be profitable. But when you don't trust the system, then you size down on the next trade, or you hesitate, and then the next trade works and you didn't take it, or you exited like early because you're not trusting the system. Then what's the point?
So would you say if anybody joins who've been losing money for from a long time, or somebody who is just fresh watching this interview, have never traded, what would your advice be to that person? Again, guys, this is not a paid interview. He's rich as fuck, all right? He don't need my money. What would you say to that one person who's sitting there and he's like, man, I really want to do this? What would your advice be? Would you recommend them fucking joining and make this happen?
Of course, 100%. Um, but there's this idea of being interested versus being committed. If you're committed to the vision that you have for your life and what you want to get out of life, then you do anything it takes. Stop doing it half-assed, right? Stop doing only part of the work. You know, stop taking shortcuts, right? You have to really put in like real commitment. And
And
real
especially
commitment isn't,
especially in KCU, there's like
Mhm.
everything is laid out. Like you have
Yeah.
everything. It's like step by step. You do this, then you do this, then you do this. You will make money.
Yeah, and so stop injecting yourself into the process, right? If you're gonna commit, and I think that's the thing. Like people say they're like risk takers, but they're not really, right? Until they are really being tested, they don't really know how much or the kind of mindset you have to put on risk. But everything you're doing is risky, right? You're staying at a 9 to 5 is risky. You risk the rest of your life just working for somebody else,
Right?
right? Putting on like if you want to do this at full time, that's a leap of faith that you have to take. Every single trade that you put on is a leap of faith. Can you
Right.
become the type of person that can handle that and
Right.
commit to that?
100%. Fuck
Yeah.
yeah. All right, now one last question that I have from you, bro. What happens to you, somebody, let's say they joined. This is for my students. They made me ask this question. You join and people think, oh, as soon as I join, I should be straight away fucking something should change in me. What's the one thing that you would recommend everybody do right now if somebody's not making money? Somebody's trying to make money, trying to figure out, they're like, oh, the system doesn't work, blah, 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 whatever. What's the one thing that you'll say as advice that you'll give yourself to the younger self, and you think you'll be at a different spot?
The system only works if you do. So if you want this to work, you have to put in the work. And it's not just trading, right? A lot of people think the more I trade, the better I'll get at trading. But trading is not the only repetition that you need, right? You got to work on yourself. You got to get the gratitude reps. You got to get the mindfulness reps. Like you need to think about how you operate, how what makes you tick, and then work on that. That's what I
Right.
had to do. I have a lot of different strategies now that I use to help myself stay regulated to get through a trading day, right? I'm working on myself because now like we said from the very beginning, the system is the system, right? It can be that easy if you just follow it step by step in the framework, right?
Right.
So that's not actually the hard part. Anybody can technically implement that. If I told my son like do this and this, he can do that, right?
Right.
But it's all the mindset stuff behind that that makes it hard. I want to make money so badly. I can't handle losing. That's the stuff that you need to work on in
Right.
order for you to actually start making money.
No, I fucking love it. Bro, I appreciate it. By the way, guys, if you are sitting on the sideline right now, you want to join KCU, I am the guy. I can make you fucking profitable and I can get you to the money. And
Yeah.
this new days they started using this term. I am him, right? I'm telling you, I can get you the money. But bro, I appreciate you so much. I'm looking forward to have an interview with you for a seven-figure fucking interview now.
Let's
I'm
go.
looking forward to it. I'll give you a call as well. Throw me your number in the chat. I'll give you a call later. I'll give you my WhatsApp. Um, Appreciate you. And let me stop the recording. All right, guys. Hey, check the first link in the description box below and let me make you rich.